All right, so we now got a player that can come, that will patrol until it sees us. It'll see us, and then it'll run after us. But, and you may like this, you may not, but we could do something. I don't understand what's going on here. I don't know if something's on my keyboard. Let me try that again. There it goes. Okay. But we could do something where, right now, if you look, if I go over here, he's like, oh no, right? And that doesn't work. And then if I leave, it'll go back to patrol. So if we want to fix that, we need to basically, add some stuff to that. Okay. So, what I'm going to do is, add, the ability to, jump. Okay. So I think that would add quite a bit of functionality to it, and so that would be cool. So basically, that is going to mean, oh, what is this, the stat script? I don't need that anymore. Get out of here. All right, so what that means is that's actually part of the chase script. So right now, what we have going on is that it, if it's not able to chase the person, it just stops, right? But what I want to do is that if it's not able to chase the person, I want it to instead jump. And that's what we're going to have it do. So we're going to say, so if ground is present, else if, I know it's kind of obvious, but we'll just say ground not present, right? Those are the only two options. We're going to add something to this afterwards, but just to get the idea. Okay. And then it's we have it running locomotion. That is not what I'm going to have it do anymore, right? So instead, I'm just going to make a new function, and it's just going to be called jump. Like so, okay? And that's going to handle the jumping. So basically, if it hits the ground, instead of just stopping, if we're chasing, it's going to try to jump instead. And we'll just add it, for locomotion. And we'll just do, okay. And we'll just call it jump, jump, jump. Okay, good, all right. And so it's going to run this jump function, and that'll be good. Okay, so we're going to need a couple of things here. We're going to need to add a couple of variables. Okay, so some of them private, some of them not. So where am I going to put it? Let's put it before this one. Doesn't really matter exactly. So we're going to do a private bool, and we're going to say jumping. So we're just going to hold something that, and we'll set it initially equal to false, not flash, false. That way, we're going to say whether we're jumping or not. It'll be useful later on. You'll see why. The other thing I need to do is determine how far it's able to jump, right? So we're going to need jump. And actually, that's going to be a public. So let's see. We did this melee section. Let's do another section, and we'll do public float jump length. Okay? And we're also going to need another float for the jump strength. Okay. Let me see. Do I need any other ones? Jumping. Jump. Jump length. Okay. So besides jump length and jump strength and the jumping, I also want to make another bool, and we're going to say jumpable, and we'll set that initially also equal to false. Okay, because we're just going to determine whether the thing is even jumpable to begin with, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, so so we're going to run this jump function. All right, go down to our jump. All right, and so we're going to say we want to find out if it's jumpable, right? So what I mean by that is this. Right now, I'm going to give him a certain amount of jump strength so he can jump, but I don't want him just getting to the edge and going, let's go for it, if he can't possibly make it, right? Then it's the suicidal lemming thing, so just with more pizzazz, right? So he's just going to run the edge and jump off into his death, which maybe that's what you want, but I would rather know that he's going to make the jump, and that's what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do is I need to be able to tell whether he's going to be able to make this leap. Now, we could do it through, like, a lot of code and math and stuff, but I'm not really that guy. So what we're going to do instead is just kind of, we're going to fudge it a little bit. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to have it, when he goes over here and he gets to the edge, as soon as he gets to the edge, it's going to run that jump. And I'm going to have that jump, that function, it's going to go a certain length, which is our jump length that we added. I'm going to have it go a certain jump length and then test whether it would hit that ground or not. And so basically we can determine how far he should try to jump. Doesn't mean he's going to make it. It just, we can determine that. And then afterwards, when we add our jump strength, we can kind of look at the two and be like, oh, I want him to be able to jump this far, but he doesn't have a strong enough jump. I'll add more to the jump strength. Or, you know, I might have really high jump strength, but really I don't want him to jump that far, so I could take the jump length down, and you know what I mean? So it's going to be those two numbers that are really going to have to kind of tweak. So what we're going to do is in here, we're going to set that jumpable. We're going to set it equal to ground detect. And we're going to send ground detect our jump length. Okay? So basically, we're going to run, because I could make another function, right? That's going to test the ground, but I already have ground detect. So I'm just going to leverage that. Right now that ground detect is running on every update, right? So I got the triggers running and I put it inside a trigger. So that's running on every frame, right? So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to circumvent that, and then when he gets to the edge, I'm going to have this one also run, where are you? I'm going to have this also run jump detect, but it's going to, instead of the offset that we had set so that it detects just in front of the person, this one's going to detect farther, right? So that's basically the idea of it. So just so you get the idea, we can actually, this should already work. So I'll show you, because we can see the line here. So I'm going to go to, where are you at? Oh, it's going to pop up here in a second. Okay. So you see where it says jump length? Let's just do a high number. We'll do 5. That's much farther than I'd want it to jump, but this way you can see it working. So watch when he gets to the edge. So right now the yellow is going to be right here, okay? Or right there, sorry. And then when he gets to the edge, you're going to see it's going to pop, well, it's going to pop out here, as it should. Boom, see how it went that far out? And then he dies because he doesn't know to jump. But yeah, so it's just going to pop out and sense out there. That's the idea, okay? So 5's obviously a lot larger than I need. Okay, so we're going to say that, and then, where is it? Okay, so that'll be true. So basically, if it goes that certain length and it touches ground, we're going to say that obviously jumpable is true. So we're going to say if it is jumpable, right? So if jumpable is true, I'm going to go ahead and have it actually do the jump. I'm going to set jumping to true to say that we are currently jumping, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and add that force. So we're going to use our rigid body that's attached to our enemy. So we're going to add force. And the force we're going to add is going to be, it needs direction times strength. So the direction is going to be transform dot up. And we're going to multiply that times the jump strength that we had, that variable we had made earlier. Okay? Oops, hang on a second, just wanna, okay. And that's it, actually. So, it's gonna set jump true. We are going to need to set jump to false as well after we do the jump, because otherwise, it won't necessarily, work. But it should be okay. Alright. Let's go ahead and save that. And if we go over here, because the problem is he won't jump again. So let's wait here, and I need to add to my jump strength. So I don't remember what. Let's try 250. I'm not sure how much force this guy's gonna need. And for the jump length, let's just do 4. Let's do 3. I think 3 is probably good enough. So we'll go ahead and play. He's gonna run to the right, and then when he's done running to the right, he's gonna run to the left, and hopefully we'll have enough upward force to get across. He might just pop up and die, but we'll see. Boom. There he goes. Okay. Woo, and he dies. All right. Now, there's a couple of things that you're going to notice that's sort of a problem. Is that you notice that he kept jumping up and down. And the reason why, this is why we made the jumping true thing, is because what ends up happening is that it's jumping. And if you look at our code, right? Where's the chase? Chase. It says if the ground is present. So for chasing, if the ground is present, right? Then what I want you to do is, go after the player, right? But if it's not present, I want you to jump. So that means as soon as it goes up in the air, right? As soon as it's not present, it can keep jumping because it's not on the ground. So that actually doesn't work. The other issue that we have is that you will see that it's on chase, right? Well, what happens is this. Chase runs when the player is present and the distance is less than melee distance. Well, think about that for a second. If I go to jump, we did this earlier, but if this thing comes over here, remember it's shooting a ray out and that's how it's detecting it? As soon as it jumps up, it's going to go like this. Well, that ray is coming up with it. Actually, you can watch it. You'll see that the ray's coming up with it, so it's going to stop detecting the player once it jumps up. See, this is the ray. That red one's the one that's reading him. As soon as he jumps up past as soon as this goes past the player, he's going to start going backwards. See how he's going back and forth this way? It's because he's reading the player, and then he's like, oh, crap, I guess I'm not in chase because I don't detect the player anymore, and then it goes to the right. So it's constantly struggling to go that direction because it keeps reading him and then not reading him and reading him and then not reading him. So that's a problem. So we need to basically fix a couple of those things, okay? And we're going to do that through telling it that it's jumping and when it's not jumping, as well as some other things, okay? Okay, so what we're going to do is this. On our, to turn the jumping back off on our ground detect, right? So we have this ground detect. We're just going to say if it hits the ground, right? Because this says it hits the ground. I'm just going to put it right inside of here. We're also going to say before we return true, it has to be before it because otherwise it won't read it. We'll just say if jumping, not capital J, sorry, if jumping, so if jumping's true, which it will be if we are already jumping, and the enemy rb2d dot velocity dot y is less than 0, I want you to turn jumping to not jumping. Okay. Now, you might be like, why would we do it like that? Why wouldn't we just say, if we're jumping and we're touching the ground, right, that should be good enough. That means that we're not jumping. Not quite, because there is the problem. This is the reason we had to do the velocity thing here. Oops, not this one. If I go here and my player goes to jump, remember it's shooting out this ray? As soon as it jumps, it would be in jumping mode. It's still detecting the ground until it gets up like here. So basically, as soon as he jumps, it's gonna keep the ground on, and it's not gonna allow it to jump. So what we need to do is say two things need to happen. It needs to be jumping, right? Also, it needs, right now, it would have a positive velocity y, meaning it's moving upwards. And in order for it to turn jumping off, it needs to be jumping as well as have the velocity going negative. So if you look, basically we say when the velocity turns to 0, so if you are jumping and we're also moving downwards, which means we're coming down from the jump, then we are no longer jumping. It's really what we should be saying is falling is true in this case, but we're going to say we're not jumping. That will fix the jumping issue. That will help definitely at least a little bit with that part of it. So that's good. That's going to partly solve it. The other issue is this. So up here we say if the ground is not present, jump. That's fine, but the reason why we did that whole jumping thing is we're also going to say and we're not already jumping, right? I don't want to keep jumping if we're already jumping. So basically if there's no ground and we're not jumping already, go ahead and jump. But if it goes again and we're already jumping, this won't run. That's the idea behind it, okay? So that'll turn off that jumping there. Now, that's not going to totally solve our problems, but it is going to solve a little bit. It's going to keep it from jumping in the air. So now it should jump, I think come back to the right and then jump again. But it's not going to go, before it was kind of like floating, like jumping up in the air. Now it should come all the way to the ground, I believe. I got to double check, but let's see. Okay, so you can see that. Hits the ground. Yep, okay. So now you can see he comes back down to the ground at least. But that's not going to quite solve the issue because it's still doing that thing where it's detecting and not detecting and detecting and not detecting. So what we're going to do is add some stuff up here to the ground present. So on the ground present, or I'm sorry, not ground present, player present, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say if ground present, oops, if the ground is present, then test if the player is present. So what that means, it's only going to test for the player if it's on the ground. As soon as it's not on the ground, it's going to stop detecting for the player. And what that's going to do, and I'll save that, what that's going to do is it means that when he comes over here and he can, grab you, come on, please. Come on. When he comes over here and he hits him, he's going to jump up, right? And as soon as he's not touching the ground, because right here it's saying, oh yeah, I see him, I see him. But the problem is when he gets up here, it shoots across and it's not seeing him. Now what will happen is when he comes up here, as soon as he gets off the ground, he's going to stop even looking. It's just going to leave it that he is currently still seeing him because we're not going to say whether he's present or not. Until he touches here, then he's going to test and see if he sees the player again. So that's the idea. Let's go ahead and play and see if that works. And usually there's always an issue, so let's see what I did wrong this time. Let him play. Man, he's such a slow walker. So now he's going to go like that, and he's going to jump. Yep, okay. So there's definitely one issue where he's, for one, that offset's too high. So let's take our offset, where is it? That ground rate offset, which is currently, let's do 0.25. I want it to be a little bit closer to his actual edge here. So let's see where that puts it. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then the other thing I want to do is he needs a lot more jump strength. So let's take jump strength and let's try 500. I don't know if that's going to be an appropriate amount. So let's see what that does. Yep, that looks great. And then he sees him. He's like, oh boy, come here. Whoa. Okay, well, you made the jump, but it's a little bit, it's a pretty high jump. Okay, so let's bring that down a touch. Let's say 350. And then I'm going to add another thing to this too. I'm going to make it that when he sees him, he actually runs faster. So what we're going to do is up here, after enemy speed, we'll do public, did I name that? Hang on a second, I don't know what I named it. Oh, enemy sprint speed. So we're going to do float, and we'll do enemy sprint speed. And what that's going to do is it's we're going to say when we see the player and you run the locomotion, we're going to have it run the locomotion faster. So right now it takes a speed multiplier. Right now it's just using enemy speed. I'm going to have it that when we're doing the chase, instead of doing enemy speed, I'm going to send it enemy sprint speed. So minus sprint speed. Okay, save that. I'm going to go here. And so right now enemy speed I have set to 1. So we'll keep it at 1 because I feel like it's pretty good for patrol. And then my enemy sprint speed, let's make that like 2.5. That's a lot faster. Let's make it twice as fast. We'll do 2. Hopefully that'll give him enough of a forward momentum to get him across. Let's see how that does. He looks like he's moving so slow, but that's kind of a good speed for, you know, that. So, yeah, he sees us and then he runs to get to us, right? And then, oh, and you can see now he's going to keep coming after us. Oops. Joke's on you. All right, he just jumped on me. But now you can see, right, it looks like he has some intelligence because he's actually jumping to me. But if I get beyond where he can go, he will stop and he'll go back into patrolling because I'm not present anymore. But if I become present, right, so it's a little creepy. It loves me. Oh, now you die. So that's pretty good. Let's just to show that this works too. So let's say you don't want this one to be able to jump. All you got to do is take this jump length and make it 0. And then what will happen is it won't do it. Hopefully it doesn't die. We might have to switch something there, but I think he'll just either go to idle or stop. But we'll see. All right, so he sees us. Oh, he jumped anyway. You dirty dog. Yeah, what's going on there? That shouldn't have worked. Let's see. Let's get him over here quicker. Oops. That's weird. I wonder why. Well, let's pull this back. Oh, you know what? Actually, let's do yeah, we'll pull this back a little bit and see if he still makes the jump. Oh, you know what it might be? Wow, he made the jump too. Jeez, okay, he's athletic. I think, let me look up here. No, I set jumpable to false by default. Okay, let me double check. All right, I'm going to pause this and then I'll tell you what the fix. All right, so I solved the problem. It's actually not even a coding thing. So, well, we could fix it with code, but I'd rather not because I'm lazy. But right now we took to 0, right? The problem is when you do 0, what will happen is that he's going to go along here, right? And if you set it to 0 because it goes right to where he doesn't move, if he tests 0 onto his offset, he's actually still going to be touching the ground, and then he'll be able to jump still. So that's why it's jumping if it's set to 0. If instead you set this just to a number that's definitely smaller than like the gap that's here, you'll be okay. So if I instead on my enemy set it to like, let's say 1, right? Because this is, I don't know, like 1.5. What'll happen is he won't be able to do it. So if you watch now, because it'll do one more unit than what it is. So he's going to test like to here, but that isn't quite reaching it when he gets to here. So I think it's going to be like right about here, or a little bit farther out. See, he never gets to there. So, but you can see the problem is now is what he does is he doesn't jump, but he also doesn't stop. So what we're going to do is just in the code in here. Right now we have it set that basically if it's doing the ground, it's going to do this. If it doesn't see the ground and it's not jumping, it's going to do the jumping, right? Well, if we say it's not jumpable, it's just going to keep doing what it was doing, which it's already moving in that direction. So we have to tell it to stop. So we're just going to, after this if, just do an else. And we're just going to go ahead and just do that idle function that we made earlier. I don't need the 0. We're just going to do idle like that. And what that'll do is that if you remember, idle is locomotion 0. It's just a shortcut. And we can also just type in locomotion, type in 0, but I don't know. So we'll go like that. That way, for some reason, we want to do something else. Like I said, like have it like sit there or make angry looks or something. We could do that. So then if you save it, and now if we go here, and if we play it, you'll see what it'll do is it will try to go to the edge. He's going to run back and forth very slowly. And then he's going to see us. And he's going to run. He's like, oh, I can't make it, right? Like, that sucks. But if I go out of the way here, nothing's going to happen. All right. Oh, and I died. Oh, okay. But if I come back over, it will once again, come on, it'll go into idle. And there you go. So, yeah, so that'll work. I would just suggest having it jump, though, as opposed to, like, having it stop. If you do want to do that, I would probably just change the code a little bit to make it a little bit cleaner. There's no sense in having that without it. So, in the next video, what I'm going to do is go ahead and make it so that the enemy can shoot stuff at us when we're at, like, a certain distance.